Good evening. This is Layla Rao. I'm the co-founder of LIA Agile, and you're here for our next installment of the LIA100 stories. And my guest today is Marsha Shenk. Marsha, besides being an overall impressive woman, she is the pioneer in business anthropology and obviously has been a lifelong learner. Marsha, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be in this company.
We are honored to talk to you. So you and I have met and have talked before, and it's very obvious that you have this incredible depth of experience. So for the rest of us, what is business anthropology and how does it fit into the Agile mindset, if it does?
It certainly does. And how it fits in is anthropology views business as a human artifact. Agile takes place in the context of this human artifact. It doesn't have to, but the conversation called Agile with a capital A takes place inside business, inside the workplace. And so it is primary human behavior. And so business anthropology is the study of commerce as a human artifact.
So basically about organizations and how we come together in organizations, how we interact. Is that a little bit of that?
That is called, I believe, organizational anthropology, but you know, it's all very new. In my view, business is a type of network of exchanges. And exchanges are biological in nature. They are fundamental to life. The exchange between us is an exchange that we are conscious of making. There are exchanges going on in my digestive system right now of which I am unaware. But I and my family are very grateful for because those exchanges allow me to remain alive. So I knew as a child that the amount of suffering that goes on about, excuse me, work, money, business, that enormous noise in people's lives. I was a child 65 years ago when life was simple. Yeah, I was appalled. I was appalled at it. And I'm still appalled at it. But then I decided that I would do something about it. And I can tell you about that moment of decision, but I think I'd like to let you ask the question.
I was going to say, I would love to understand your journey and how you came to that moment and what changed for you after that realization.
Well, I had polio in 1955. It was the last polio epidemic in the United States. It was actually the year that the Salk vaccine came out.
Wow.
By virtue of a number of unfortunate coincidences, I went to the beach for the first time on a day when there were warnings. And anyway, I was a very strong, verbal, well-read child, and my experience was that I was felt, and I was thrown into a situation where I couldn't speak.
Oh my goodness.
And I was for about 4 weeks in a coma, and I heard them tell my parents that I was past the point of no return. They shouldn't bother coming back. They didn't know in 1955 that people in comas could hear what was going on around them. The result was that I came to the conclusion that I was surrounded by idiots and better fight for my life, which I did, obviously, as we are here discussing it. I did it by visualizing myself running. And holding on to that vision, this is pathology. Dismissing the idiots around me and holding on to my vision, this is not someone you want to be around a lot, but it got me through this experience. I broke the friggin' iron lung several times. I'd never heard of such a thing before. But I learned in this experience, I learned a lot.
I can only imagine.
So I emerged from that at not quite age 11, knowing that I would be teaching people what I learned, even though at that moment I knew that I couldn't articulate it. But I just settled into that. And of course it helped me recover, set me on a journey, but I just had different kinds of eyes than the people around me after that.
Wow, so you literally use this incredibly traumatic experience to develop your own insight into how the world around you functions.
And that's very common among people who have been stricken with serious illnesses in childhood. I spent 2.5 days last week with a man who has cerebral palsy and has had since childhood. And he works for Scotiabank and is a motivational speaker and, has his own theory of servant leadership and lives a good life. And I recognize that. I know that. Because I was that kid who had a back in an S curve and nobody could understand what I was saying, and I fell every 6 steps. I was that kid. So when I look around the world, people are worrying about garbage, like whether they got the promotion that Stanley got. I'm just like, oh God, people. It's noise to me. In a way that was helpful to me in getting through all of that, finding the stuff that wasn't noise.
So a strong sense of conviction, ability to identify what is important among all the noise that surrounds us.
Yes, I mean, there's a shadow side there of, arrogance and thinking that everybody else is stupid that took, a few decades of work. But there is also the knowledge of my own power and accountability that I had before age 11. And that is something that children who have been through something like this kind of thing often demonstrate. The high performer who's had polio is not unique.
No, I think seeing you now as an expert professional and hearing about this experience, there are the connections that seem pretty evident. The unique combination of physical movement, body, the importance of that, of communication, of trusting your own intuition and expertise, and putting all of those together with a very strong sense of conviction in your own knowledge. Am I drawing somewhat of the proper conclusion?
That's a nice three-legged stool. I would add the fourth leg, which was at the age of 10, I knew that people lived in very different realities.
Wow. Okay, that's incredibly powerful.
Well, and I can tell you how I got that lesson, but there's a way in which it doesn't matter. I got that lesson while I still couldn't speak. And I was still actually in some ways being tortured by some people who shouldn't have had access to helpless patients. So I was still in the iron lung. I was still, but I was out of the coma and I knew where I was going. So the fact that I couldn't speak yet that was today. So I had a conversation with a physician, and in that conversation, the reality for me, that people live in multiple realities and always will.
So this insight about people have their own realities and sometimes multiple realities, how does that connect to your professional work today? Is it more about helping understand each other because we do live in different realities, or is there a different correlation there?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of it, but the hugeness of that from the point of view of, let's call it business or work, is that because my reality is different than yours, you can contribute to me and I can contribute to you. And it is only because of that difference that we can contribute to each other.
So rather than seeing this lack of shared worldview as an obstacle to be overcome, you're seeing it as an opportunity to add value to each other.
It's an opportunity to design. It is an opportunity for us to design together. And we've been doing that without talking about it and having quite a good time. Because I would say, in the wisdom of 65 years later, that we are engaging in a rich exchange.
I think this conversation could probably take about 2 hours. So given our time limits, given the history of the Agile movement over the last 20 years, and you've kind of seen all of this experience, what is your understanding of our community today? What are we doing well? What have we perhaps lost sight of? Because this did grow up very, very fast.
If you look at that through the lens of Chinese medicine, you see something that you can't see from any other point of view. So when I describe what is happening in lion's share of workplaces today, and every Agile transformation I know of, you have systemic constipation. And that's very serious stuff. That gridlock that everybody is feeling, that sense of, I worked for 12 hours and I have no idea whether I did anything worthwhile. That is incredibly serious. Systemic constipation is not something to be trifled with. Chinese medicine would be waving red flags. And okay, that's just like multiple realities. Okay, cool. Now I'd like to add the lens of social neuroscience. In the last, 15, maybe 20 years, the wisdom that has been made available by some pioneers in social neuroscience, absolutely extraordinary. And we know what to do anywhere, anytime. We know how what we are doing right now, this rich exchange that we are having. There are a few, we've distilled it down. I've distilled it down to 6 skills that we can cast like Johnny Appleseed in the workplace, because it's based on biology, but it's applied in business and it grows like organically. From the point of view of social neuroscience, this is solvable because we understand the chemicals, we know what has to happen, we know the type of sociality that is absolutely necessary to unclog our workplaces. So because we can look at things through these multiple lenses, we can see what to do. And that's what keeps me going, because we have to do something about this. This is the waste of resources is obscene.
If we do know what needs to be done and we all have some sense of the problem, why are we not able to address the problem? Is there something specific that we can be doing?
Yeah, there are very specific things we can be doing. They involve accepting that human beings are living things, and a network, also known as a business, is either a living thing or it isn't. And most people would prefer that it be a living thing. And that is what is threatened by what I'm calling systemic constipation. If the value exchanges are impeded by bureaucracy, matrix, or numbing repetition, or numbing continual uncertainty, or poor air and water, or possibly all of the above.
So what our leaders, and probably all of us, should be doing is looking at ourselves and each other as human beings first and seeing the basic survival needs. Are we able to breathe, eat, drink, are those things taken care of? And then try to follow up to what are the things that we can do consistently, it sounds like, to treat each other as human beings, to focus on humanity first, and then the business roles and titles as an afterthought.
Well, actually, that's almost right. What it comes first is the connection and belonging. Now, they say in real estate, the first 3 things are location, location, and location.
With people as well as real estate, okay.
First 3 things in human thriving are belonging, belonging, and belonging. See, after that comes water, food, sex, and the rest of it.
Wow. So
we are mammals. Something that we will never change in our lifetimes. We are mammals. That has a 300 million year time depth. We're not going to change it. We're mammals, ladies and gentlemen. And we got to start taking that seriously.
Have we just gotten that far away from our sense of being animals, of being a biological being with certain parameters of what that means?
Yes, my dear, we have. Our ancestors slept in puppy piles, and we can be prosecuted for touching in the workplace. That is insanity.
A sense of belonging. So if we're trying to get people to change and think differently, we have to ensure their basic needs are met, and fundamentally that we're all interconnected and that there is a sense of belonging and community. Wow.
Far beyond the way we talk about safety. Far, far beyond that. Imagine the Mongol army sleeping in puppy piles, breathing together for 8 hours every night before they get up and fight together.
Take the whole concept of co-location to a whole different level.
Whole different level.
Wow. So for those of us who can recognize the truth in what you're saying, but don't have the language or ability to start bridging this gap, are there some suggestions that you can tell us on just how to be more aware of ourselves as mammals and social beings first?
Yes. Pay attention to the exchanges which make up your work and your life. Pay attention to them. Our lives take place in exchanges with other humans. I don't exchange with my laptop. I don't know about you. But
you're reminding me of the old John Donne quote, "No man is an island," or "No woman."
Yeah, I mean, we are so far away from it. Now, the good news is there's a lot of nuts and fruits like me bringing ways of finessing and dancing and moving with this. That's the good news. I was at a conference called Spark last week with 100 lifelong learners in t-shirts just thinking and breathing and moving together. And that's what we're made for, ladies and gentlemen. It's not freaking rocket science. So I've got 6 basic skills and someone else has, 5 basic skills, and we can do it. You can pay attention to your exchanges. Just that. Is it a depleting exchange? Is it a ho-hum exchange? Is it a rich exchange? I never have to explain what I mean by that. What you have to explain is a sweet spot exchange. And that is worth learning. That is when something special that is contributed, is received by someone, and you can see the benefit.
I think most people don't have the words for it, but they will understand when they experience it.
Exactly. And so just start paying attention. You want to know what to do, just start paying attention to that. Start keeping track of the proportion, and as you increase your proportion of which exchanges, you will transform the ecosystem around you, because that's the only way you can increase your proportion of rich exchanges, is by reaching out. It's so simple.
I think now I'm seeing the connection between business anthropology and your unique combination of body, communication, spirit, and Agile, because Agile frameworks with the big A, they give you the scaffolding, but there's a lot of things that need to happen inside that scaffolding. That's not a framework. It's about human beings and that connection. And your advice can help make possible things within the Agile framework that make those frameworks that much more sustainable and not just a process.
Yes, and that's what will make them vital. And that's what we all want. We want them to be vital. And yeah, right. And we'll just keep learning.
I remember the conversation we had, and I walked away thinking, oh my goodness, you're drawing from so many different domain areas.
Yeah.
How do you, was it intentional, your life journey, like learning all these different disciplines and domains, or did you pursue what interested you at the moment and the pattern evolved afterwards?
Well, let me start with, I'm a firstborn Jew, so I was expected to be a scholar, and I was. And I can't remember a time when I didn't know how to find out something, even if it meant riding my bicycle down to the library. There were always ways to find out stuff. And particularly after emerging from the iron lung and reclaiming the ability to move independently, which is a big friggin' deal. There was nothing that ever stopped me from anything actually. And that's just because was I ever afraid I wasn't going to be able to make a living as a business? It never occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to make a living. Never crossed my mind, because I was just looking at how can I contribute? What's happening here and how can I contribute?
So
it's like that's what we're made for, ladies and gentlemen.
paying attention.
Pardon me?
Paying attention to ourselves, to each other, the world around us, and taking those observations into, okay, how can I help? What can I contribute? What can I add to this knowledge? That sounds like a pretty good advice to live by.
And just how can I enrich the exchanges in which I engage every day? That'll do it. If we all do that, we're there.
That sounds like a recipe for a much better world than the one we live in right now.
I hope so.
On that note, Marsha, thank you. This has been an incredibly powerful conversation. I really appreciate your candor and that you're so willing to share your expertise.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, as I knew it would be.